Shkoyach everyone for joining us. We're being joined also by people that are joining us on Zoom. Shkoyach Sasson for starting off this terrific thing again. Shech Boruch Shechiyonu v'Kimonu. And according to the shit that the Shnei Pomim have a chazaka, so already we're making a chazaka that we restarted the Sunday morning. There's really no better way, especially in Chodesh Elul, when we want to greet the King in the field. There's no better way to start the week than to start together by Achtus, bringing together and eating together and learning Torah and Torah Tefillah Tzedakah to start the week this way. So Yom Kotzal Malachim Aruba. I just want to get straight to the first question. Someone asked, was actually last week after the Shir, we spoke about Nibis. It happens to be this week's Parsha, Kisisa, which is Lenochri Tashech, Lachecha Lois Tashech. So someone asked the question. His friend offered him to buy accounts receivable, was La'erech on this order. So he wanted to sell him, let's round up the numbers. He wanted to sell him accounts receivable $2,000 and he would pay for it $1,500. And the Be'erech, it's paid up in the next 6 months. And he says he thinks that the things are pretty secure. It's good. He wants to buy it. So is it mutter? Is it libis or not libis? So we'll read it inside. But first of all, it's people don't realize sometimes they have to ask a shayla in libis. So this person said he would join us today on Zoom. Anyway, I answered him anyway by text. I answered him the shayla already. So let me just simplify. Say I wanted to buy 15 from Sasson. Sasson has accounts receivable $2,000. I want to pay him $1,500. So what's the Ribis question? The Ribis question is like this. Simple. I'm giving him $1,500, and in return, I'm getting $2,000. I'm giving the money now, and I'm getting that's what it looks like Ribis. But it's not Ribis. Why is it not Ribis? Because he's selling me a debt, someone else's debt. But he's not allowed to take a achrayus. He's not allowed to guarantee the loan. To say that if I can't collect that debt, I go back to Sasson. If Sasson makes that deal that he guarantees the loan, that turns into Ribis. Because essentially what is happening is he needs money right now, so I'm giving him $1,500. And in 6 months, he's giving me a return $2,000. So that is Ribis. Another thing, it has to be that he's selling me real accounts receivable. If it's say it was a milval peh, so it's not tangible. The deal is only between me and him. There's no one else really here. So it's complicated of how you make the transaction happen.
Like you buy a vendor's credit card, whatever comes into the company.
That's what I'm talking about. And this is
1,500 was already in the picture.
Oh,
future.
The future. Okay,
So
let's talk about the shayla that someone asked, and then we'll go to another shayla that could arise afterwards. There's the other question is that what happens if some of these people were goyim? So I mean, most of the accounts receivable really there's a paper trail. Even if there's not a paper trail, it's online, which legally today is considered like a shtar choiv. But what happened? A lot of the accounts receivable are goyim, and there is a problem with a goy. Kinyonim with a goy are very complicated. Kinyonim with a goy are very. Why are you selling your chametz to a goy before Pesach? You're going to the Rav. Why can't you just knock at your neighbor's door? Johnny, kes verkaufen my chametz. Ich will verkaufen the chametz. Shake hands. Because doing transactions with a goy are very complicated. The hilchas kinyonim with a goy is complex. That's it. Very simple. So you're relying on the Rav who learned the sugya choshemishvit well and knows how to make a kinyan with a goy. If a kinyan with a yid is simple, a kinyan with a goy is complicated. So anyway, the bottom line is that the Alter Rebbe has a eitzah. Again, what's the problem here? The problem is that the goy is not in the picture really. It's between me and Sasson. I gave him 1,500. And I collected 2,000. The fact that the goy gave it to me is no difference. If the goy is not in the picture, so really, what's the difference where I collected the money? I collected from the goy on the behest of Sasson. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says the eitzah is like this: that Sasson will say to me before we do the deal, "I am moichel the goy, but shh, don't tell the goy the secret. I'm also selling you nudging rights. I'm selling you nudging rights. I have nudging rights to that goy. I'm selling you all the nudging rights in the world, whatever you could collect from that goy. These nudging rights I sell to you. Yeah. Right. Right. And those people are goyim. Those people are goyim. So he tells me before I give him the money that he is moichel, the goyim, the choiv. But he's selling to me. Well, 1 second. Listen to the end. But I keep a gentleman's deal with him that I'm going to keep it a secret. I'm not going to tell the goyim that he was moichel the debt. But he sells to me the right to whatever rights I might have, legal rights to nudge the goy to get money, that he's selling to me. Let's read it inside. The Dalter Rebbe writes here in Hilchos Rebbe Simen und Zayin. V'chein mish yesh l'shtar choy v'moicher l'chavere. V'poches m'schum ha'kosav boy. V'pnei shechavere maktim loy hamos. A person is paying a lower amount than what the shtar choy is written. Hareze also l'kabel l'bachrayis ha'choy. The seller cannot take a responsibility for the loan. Yani haloivish im yia shelo yia loy b'ma l'froya sheyaz loy b'ma hamos. Right now, the lakeach is basically guaranteed to have the schar. There's no deal of a sale over here. This turns out to be a loan. Even if it's going to end up taking the money from the loiva, it doesn't matter. He could take a limited achrayis. He could take a certain achrayis, say, if he sold them wrong things, the accounts receivable already paid. So he could take achrayis for that. If it's a milval peh, there's no paper trail here. There's no contract. So then, that's with a yid. How do you do it with a goy? So skip 10 says sifim. Sif samachtes na alter rebbe mechir zot tzarich lich becher v'ag akno shamashken shmetalken likne mehem v'im yesh lechoy al anochri v'ribes balomashken afili yesh l'shtar choy v'ena derech laknois l'Yisrael sheyal b'mois v'yitn lo ributz min ha'olam min ha'goy mehem v'olam l'fish ha'choy shel goy ein nikne b'shum kinyan ba'olam. There's no way to transfer a choy of a goy. Chazal made a thing called a mamet shloshton. So if someone owes money to Sasson, and Sasson wants to give the chayv to me, it's not a milva b'shtar, so all three of us stand, and we agree that that person does not paying the chayv to Sasson, he's paying it to me. That's what the takona the Chazal made, called Maimet Shlosh. But they never made this takona with a goy. It doesn't work with a goy. Maimet Shloshton is something that they made only for a yid. It doesn't work with a goy. So, why? That's a good question. Why? Because that's why Chazal set it up. I don't know. Mata kanosek. Yoyma Yisrael habeis lamalva orishin. Ata timchalal nochri. So I'm the Yisrael base. This one is the Yisrael orishin, the malva orishin. Ata timchalal nochri v'tiftereu mikoil koil. You will forgive the goy his loan. I'm buying from you the right, whatever I could get from the goy. As I said before, the nudging rights. I'm buying nudging rights from the goy. You can't sell me. Sasson can never sell me a choy from a goy. There's no way he could sell it to me. However, this is a trick because when he forgives the goy, he took away himself b'toras mechila.
Where's the debt?
The goy doesn't know that there's no debt. The goy knows that it's not Geneva. That's a separate shaila. Geneva, it's a good question. It's a good question, but it's not Geneva from a goy.
So then call it something else.
You have to know that a know from a goy is not the same as a yid. 1 second. The guy knows that he owes this money to a Jew.
Right.
The fact that we're sitting here making a pilpul and he said this and this, the guy doesn't know. The guy knows he took the money, he has to return the money. Mishnah Geya, he's returning it to Sasson, he's turning it to me. He does all these pilpulim are nothing to the guy. You're talking to the wall. He doesn't. Because there's no way to sell the debt from a guy. You can only sell the debt from a yid. If it's a milval peh, you make a maimet shlosh. If it's a milval b'shtar, you transfer the shtar. You can't. There's no way to make.
For some reason, the Chazal couldn't create such a thing as that you can.
I don't know if they couldn't, but they didn't.
All right.
The guy doesn't know.
I wouldn't say they couldn't. They didn't.
The guy doesn't know his debt. How?
Right. Could be if it was a yid, then it really would be. Then the yid would not have to pay anymore. But with the goy, it's not that way. So now, really, there is no debt between Sasson and the goy. It's just that legally, the goy he has a right to go nudge the goy for the money, and that he could sell to me. That he could nudging rights he could sell. Achoiv he can't sell, but nudging rights he could sell. Paper money is a good question. Is paper money a contract or paper money is really money? There was a time that the U.S. kept in reserves. They kept a certain amount, right? But that doesn't exist anymore. So when the U.S. kept gold in reserves, connected every dollar, and there used to be the dollars, I think was even written on the bottom that you could cash it in for the schum of shavius, of what it's worth. So at that time, a dollar was a shtar choiv. It was a shtar choiv. A dollar was a shtar choiv. But today, right. But today, a dollar is not a shtar choiv because there isn't a nickel or a dime sitting in Fort Knox or anywhere backing this dollar. Who is backing the dollar? It's monopoly money. Who's backing the dollar? It's who's backing? There's no money in Fort Knox backing this dollar. So yes, it's a very important nakuda. So if it's the military power of the U.S. and the printing machines that are cranking out those dollars, so then they're not a shtar choiv. Right now, they are money. When it was that it was written on the dollar that you could cash it in for whatever schum of gold it is, and there really was gold backing it in Fort Knox. A dollar was a shtar choiv. But today, that the U.S. government just prints paper, and whatever a value, whatever people are willing, however much people are willing to work for it, that's how much it's worth. So, it's not a shtar choiv anymore. Now it's money. What's the difference if the money is made out of gold or silver or something that everyone agrees, like the mashal with the chicken schmaltz? What's an afkamina? So if we all agree that that's the currency, so that's the currency. So Mamela, back to our shaila, the money today is not a shtar choiv. Money is money. Money is money. In Monopoly, if you play a game of Monopoly, if everyone agreed, if Bitcoin, at some point maybe it'd be considered not a shtar choiv, it'll be considered real money. It's just that right now, not many people are taking Bitcoin. Maybe how many pizza shops will take Bitcoin for a slice of pizza? Huh? Yeah. So at some point, we'll have to talk about Bitcoin. What's the value of Bitcoin? But right now, the dollar has a din of money, not shtar choiv.
Currency of the United States dollar is always been powerful. So, trusted. That becomes less trustworthy.
So the dollar is has less value, but it still has a din of a matbeya. It still has the din of money. So there's poiches al matbeya, moisef al matbeya. The value those days also, matbeyas, the values went up and down too. Right. Yeah. Look at what's on.
I thought he just buy as many dollars as he could.
Uh-huh.
Dollars. So really, he did good because the pesos.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Even the dollar. Gold is the name of the game.
I thought that Ravana Shalom was the name of the game. Yeah.
In New Jersey, a lady making salad,
Yeah.
and she was doing very well, and she really.
Someone gave her $50,000.
Give her up, give her, she has to give it back. But from all the effort she was having 20%.
If they make a star heter isk, it's kosher. Otherwise, it's ribis ktutz. It's also the rice. Doesn't matter. If they don't make a star heter isk, then they're bad. No, they must. Now, since if they already started the deal, then it's very complicated how to do it. Rabbi Kaplan, you wanted to ask something about?
Basically, the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Someone asked me a shayla this week. He texted me. He just thinks he did a big mitzvah, but then he thinks maybe he did a chilul Hashem. So he went out of shul, and he sees that he just got tickets because he had an expired meter, and he still had the little slip in his card that had extra time. So he went over, took his slip, and he opened the ticket and he put it inside. And no, it's on the windshield. So he opened the ticket. He put his slip inside. So when the Yid will come back to his car, he'll see that Kadosh Baruch Hu was makdim refuah lamaka. He'll see that he has the ticket, but he has also the slip. He can write in made a mistake. So Mamela. So first he said he thought he did a big mitzvah, and then he's thinking maybe he did a chilul Hashem. So his question is, what is it? Is it a big mitzvah or a chilul Hashem? So my answer is like this. It's really, I don't see Kiddush and chilul Hashem as a big thing over here, because unless it was a community thing and it turned into a big thing, so then chas shalom could be a chilul Hashem. But an individual person, no one sees. It's not a chilul Hashem. It's a question of gneva. The government has the right to set rules to collect taxes, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago in that share with the Becca that they found from the Divrei Chaim Tzans in Poland and the other silverware. The share that I spoke about, the tshuva from Rav Elyashiv about the crown that was found in Yad Vashem. So bottom line is, the government has a right to levy taxes and tickets and give out tickets. No one is allowed to steal. Chazal have this concept of about just cheating the moiches, the taxman. The Rambam explains in Hilchas Gneva Gzeila that we're talking about the taxman. Those days, the taxman used to pay a set thing to the government to collect taxes, and they were all b'chazok of ganovim. They overcharged people, and they charged unfairly. They overcharged and they charged unfairly. So therefore, it was mutter for people to cheat on those taxes. The same thing, the government itself, if they unfairly tax, if they have a Jew tax, everyone pays a certain tax, but the Jew has a special tax. So then the Yid is allowed to cheat that. The Jew tax, the Yid is allowed to cheat. Allowed to give taxes, gesundheit, for everyone equally, but they can't have a Jew tax. They can't have a Schwarzer tax. Everyone pays the thing, but the Schwarzers pay an extra tax. They're not allowed to do that. And if they do that, the Schwarzers, Halpidin, are allowed to cheat on that tax, because it's not fair. The government does not have the right up Alocha to discriminate. They could say that they're allowed to discriminate, but they're not allowed to. It's interesting.
Yeah, they don't.
They first of all, but that's not against the Jews. They changed that, by the way.
I'd say, but not only from here, it's more.
So here is what I want to say. I'm not pasking the shaila. The person already did it. and everyone should judge themselves. If you feel, which some people say, that the city of New York needs to bring in a certain amount of money, so they send out the meter maids to give tickets. Certain neighborhoods, they get harassed.
The machine's automatic. The machine doesn't care who you are, what you
No, not the machines. If you parked and your time ran out, that's not a mute.
No, but in some places they give you, let's say, $1 for 2 minutes, in other places $1 for an hour.
But it's a machine.
The tickets, as of now, parking tickets don't come from machine. They come from human beings. When that will change, we'll discuss it. No. See, meter maids walk around and they give tickets. And this person claims, I don't know if it's true, but this person claims that they won't, these meter maids, certain neighborhoods, they won't dare enter. That needless to explain why, and there's different reasons in different neighborhoods. But there's a few neighborhoods in New York they love to go to. No one's gonna hit them. No one will scream at them. Their bodies won't be damaged. There won't be any political backlash of being targeting. It's a cream puff. There's a few neighborhoods that are cream puffs. That's what this Yiddelach claim. So if it's true that there's a few neighborhoods that are cream puffs, so the city of New York says we have to collect kach money in a year from tickets. That's the source of revenue. We have to collect $50 million a year tickets. This neighborhood, politically not good. This neighborhood, these are cops live here. Where are we going to go? With the Yiddelachar. Now there's a taina about unfair taxation. Now there's a taina of unfair taxation. If you believe that that's true, and you see that Yochava Yid got a ticket, that his meter expired, and not because you don't believe in that you can't say that you don't believe in meter laws, because they have the right to make any laws. But if you feel that this is a cream puff neighborhood, and they're going to get triple their money from this Jewish neighborhood than from the Italiano or the Schwarze or the Irish neighbor, Yemult, then you could do the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael. Why are you negated? What are you negated? The other you got a ticket. You didn't get a ticket.
It just as well could if you got the ticket. So you're in the
Wait, it's unfair system.
I didn't say feeling. Has to be factual. Sure, it has to be factual. It has to be factual.
It's only worse now because BLM, you're allowed to kill anybody because it's the protests now.
No.
All right, so what?
You know that you had a certain time. You know that.
Yeah. So, but they're not talking about the person that got the ticket.
They're milking us. You know? They're camping out in full party. I don't know if they're
Now we have to find out.
Huh? In this area, a meter maid won't fly every. In this area, a meter maid won't fly every.
And in this area,
Yeah.
how do they
Right. If you could show that.
Then you could.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't make natural basis on that heritage.
Okay. But in dinim moments is kimli. A person could be make his own din Torah, and a person could say, "This is the way I hold," and that was it. Okay. A ticket.
He said, "What is this about?" I'm like,
Because if it was a fellow with payas, it would have been a different story. You'd see it on the news right. You'd see it on the news right now. Okay, third shaila. Third shaila is hemshech. We're trying to catch up a little bit this summer because we started late in the Bechas Hanenim, and this is we left off Shabbos about that there is an unusual case that even bread becomes tougher to something else. like cheese and crackers. He doesn't want the cracker. He really just doesn't want his hands to get dirty. So he wants cheese or herring and crackers. So the Shaloh says, even though it's a Mishnah, the Mishnah says that sometimes the pas could be tough. But the Shaloh says that a person shouldn't rely on that, because miyudeh, says the Shaloh, who knows? Because people really are hungry to eat bread. Who knows if you're really fooling yourself and you're saying that you're eating the bread only as an edible spoon. You're eating the bread only because your mouth is on fire from the jalapeno pepper. But who knows if it's really the case? That's what Shaloh says. I want to look inside. Look at the Mishnah and the Gemara. A very interesting Mishnah and Gemara. Mishnah says, they brought in the Maliach and also the Pas. So, Maliach is salty, something salty. So he makes the bracha on the salty thing, and he doesn't make a bracha on the Pas. Shapas tfeilaloi. Zak, lal, kol shuhika, vime tfeilam, avarach lika paitas at tfeilam. Zag the Gemara, mi did have a Maliach iker of Pas tfeilam. Is it possible such a thing? Zag the Gemara, Amar Abacha, Breder Babira, Amar Abashi, Boichle Peres Genoise. We're talking about Peres Genoise. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Pirush, Eretz Yam Kineretz, Chashuvim in Apas, the Takazoi. In the Kineretz, there is Peres that are more choshev than Pas. They're more choshev than Pas. You make a bracha on them, and a part of the Pas, unbelievable. It's more choshev. So, the fruits are more kosher. So he makes a Beire Priya 8 from the fruits. Huh? Guinness big as we know. Like the Gemara is going to say. The most delicious fruits. Look in the Gemara. Amar Abacha Breder Avira Amar Abashi Michael Peres Genois Amar Rabba Bachana said Kavas Luna said Rabbi Yochanan Michael Peres Genois. We used to go with Rabbi Yochanan and eat Peres Genois. Kevin Be Meya Maktina Lelachol Chad V'Chad Asora. Became Sora Maktina Lelachol Chad V'Chad Meya. The bottom line was that if he had 1,000 baskets of fruit. And every basket had 3 saw. It's huge. We eat everything. The Lord times the Yuna. And I could swear that we were never satisfied. In fact, the Gemara eats so much fruit, you're not satisfied. Yuna Saldai to what you were still hungry. They never felt it's like eating a lot of dessert. They never felt fully satisfied. They didn't stay as hungry as before after eating all that fruit. Rabbi Abba would eat these fruits. His face would get so oily that if a fly went on his head, it would just come flying off the fly. That's how oily his face would get from eating these fruits. Rabbi Abasi would eat these fruits. They would lose every hair they had. This fruit was a sazoya. They would left with no hair, nothing. Reb Shimon ben Lakish have ochel ademorid. Reb Shlokish used to eat the fruits until he became crazy. Reb Yochanan used to send a message to the Nosi's house. Reb Yehuda used to send, like today in Hebrew, a balash is a cap, an uncovered cap. But balash in the Gemara means whatever. Balash, yeah. Whatever. And they would tie him up and bring him home. His wife should take care of him. Give him a sugar. Okay. The Gemara. Awesome. Reb Dimi Omar. Reb Dimi said there was a city that Yana had in the Har HaMelech. Shishim Ribu Safli Toris. They used to bring 60 Ribu. Unbelievable number of buckets of Toris, which it actually says is tuna. 60 times 60,000. It's a crazy number. So they would bring all these buckets full of tuna. So many ta'anim were there that the workers needed. That's according to Rashi. And I'm telling you everything right now according to Rashi. The Pshat and the Gemara. Unbelievable amount of the bracha was unbelievable. Okay, I will stop at
All
this
this
point.
is proving the chashivas of the fruit.
So this, and according to Rashi, really, the hemshech of here is not so understood. But the other Rishonim go with Toisus. And the hemshech of the Gemara is very, very gishmak. It's a lishit also here. Toisus, look at the last line. Loisus says like this. Before we go to Toisus, let's read Rashi again. Rashi says, Peides, Yam Kineres, Chashuvim min Apas. That the Yam Kineres, those are called Peides Genoiser, those fruits are more chashuv than bread. So you made an eights on the fruit, and you potted the bread. That's how the fruit was more chashuv. Then Rashi says, what's the story with Yam Melech? There's no connection really, Rashi says. Just that, whatever, just talking about just like we're talking about quality and quantity. We're talking about how delicious the fruits in Eretz Yisrael were around the Kinneret. We're also talking about the amount of fruits Bechlal Eretz Yisrael had, but the connection on the beginning and the Gemara doesn't connect that well. Toisvis, the Rishonim go with Toisvis. Several Rishonim go with Toisvis. There's a Ruah, in the Muki Yosef, other Rishonim, Toisvis Rabbeinu Yehuda, and they explain how the Hemshech Gemara goes very well. Toisvis says like this. Before we go to Toisvis, according to Rashi, who's talking about Melech? We're talking about salt over here. So Rabbeinu Yonah says that sometimes those fruits was because the Mishnah doesn't. The Mishnah is talking about something salty. Mevorach, he says,
Why is the more you're bringing up?
yeah, Pedis. So Rabbeinu Yonah says, which is a little bit of a doichik in Rashi, he says the pshat is that those fruits were so sweet that sometimes people would put salt on it, to be able to eat it. So that's a pshat. Mevorach hamaliyach, a poiter is a pas. You make a boire priya eitz on the fruit because the regilus was that they put some salt on these fruits because they were very sweet. It's a little bit of a funny pshat, but so again, Rashi says that the bread is inferior. The chshivas of the bread is inferior. Huh? He's eating bread. He's eating bread and fruits.
They're so sweet. They have to put salt
On the fruits, yeah.
on the food.
And then he
Where's
eats the
bread?
fruit. No, he eats the bread afterwards. He eats a meal. He eats lunch. He eats lunch. Huh? The Mishnah says Maliyach. It means Pedis Maluchim. It means Pedis Maluchim. Pedis Maluchim. Pedis Maluchim, yeah. Right. It's a Pella, the Kipshat. And one of the Rishonim says, and actually, I really was leaving it for the end, for a little bit, but it's unbelievable, Gishmak Kipshat. And this is one of the Rishonim. I have two Pshatim, one from the Eretz Sameach and one is from the Eretz Tzvi, similar, but this is a Rishon, the Ra. So the Ra says, Shematani pi moiri hachochem agodl Reb Yitzchak Alevi Bashmuel. Shezeu shetirgem unkelis and Bereshis Memtes, it says the Brachas, it says the Brach in Naftali, it says, V'chasante tehei ma'abdom peidi yehei moidun amavorchin alai. That the Naftali, his place is going to be around the Kinneret. So his fruits are going to be so delicious that they're going to make a brach on them. So said Reb Yitzchak Alevi Bashmuel, Lefi shehein te'unim bracha la'olam ve'ein niftarim bepas k'shor peides. Usually, other fruits and vegetables, you make a bracha on the pas, and then everything else is in the Suda. But the fruits in the land of Naphtali will be so delicious, so choshev, that you're going to make the bracha on the fruits and pater the pas. That's the way the Ra'ah brings from his Rebbe. And that pshat goes very good in Rashi pshat. But the Tosfos had a totally different pshat, the whole Gemara. They even have a different girsa in the question of the Gemara. Rashi's girsa was, Mika midid have a maliach ikar b'pas tefela. Is it possible to say that maliach, that the maliach is more choshev and the pas is less choshev? And the answer, yeah, these fruits of Genoiser are more choshev than bread. They're more choshev. But Tosfos didn't buy this whole pshat. Tosfos even has a different girsa in the kasha of the Gemara. There are the older Rishonim that learn like Tosfos have a different kasha. They said, "Omtu dehiveloi maliach tchila havale ikar." What's the difference? Which came first, the bread or the maliach? That's a different question, B'chlal. And Tosfos says, now what's the answer? Tosfos says, "Shamaliach ikar shabala hoshiv alev shenachlis neimasikas apri v'apashal acher of tofu ve'nebo elo mishvil maluach." That they ate. There's three. That's a choo-choo train. It's a different pshat and gans. People ate. They ate fruits that are very sweet. And then Then they had chalishus alev, and then they ate salty things like herring, right? And then exactly, they were very sweet. It's very sweet. They ate something very salty. Very salty. Mouth was on fire. Mouth was on fire, so they ate a piece of bread. A choo-choo train. The Rambam explains it a little more scientifically. He says that when a person eats very sweet stuff, there's a lot of lecha, there's a lot of moisture in the stomach, and it gets very gassy, and the person is in pain. So when he eats something that's tremendously salty, the salt burns all that moisture that's in the stomach, and the mela calms down the pain. Now, why his mouth is on fire right now? Because it has to be real. It's not just a little bit of schmaltz we're talking about. That's what I'm saying. So when you read it in Tosfos, it sounds a little funny. The Rambam in the Pirush HaMishnayos explains it more of it. He's saying the same thing as Tosfos. He's just explaining it with more sort of scientific terms. He says that the person eats these very sweet fruits and the stomach is very gassy. So then he eats this really salty, sharp stuff that burns. It's salt. That's what salt does. It makes the things, right, evaporate. So therefore, his mouth is on fire. So it's a piece of, but the same thing is a choo-choo train. So the Gemara asked, which comes first? The answer is, it makes a big difference. If you ate first the bread, you make a moitz. But if you ate first the sweet fruit, then you had the gases. Then you ate very salty. Then you had pain in your mouth. Start with a pain in the stomach and a pain in the mouth. It's a choo-choo train. That's what the Gemara answers. So wait a minute. So the Tosfos, the Ur says, it brings a Tosfos shot. He says, now you understand the Hemshech Gemara. The story with Yana Melech was that Yana Melech had Hara Melech was somewhere next, must have been Ur next to the Kinneret. We don't know today things in Israel what the name really, but there was a place then called Hara Melech, and it was near the Kinneret, and over there the fruits are very sweet. Now we have in this week's parsha that when you have a worker working in your field, you're not allowed to tell him he can't eat the fruits. He has to be able, while he's working, to eat from the fruits. So they were cutting the tainim, so you have to let them eat. The problem was they were eating fruits. It was very good. What was happening? The stomachs got very gassy, so they could hardly work. So Yanei HaMelech had no choice but to order trucks and trucks, 60,000 to 60 times. It's a guzma, like, a lot. He had trucks and loads full of salty tuna in order to be able that the people would eat, the workers would eat it after they eat these fruits. And Memela, that was fixed on. So Memela, the Hemshech Gemara flows very well. Now, what's the nafkamina if you learn like Rashi or you learn like Tosfos? So basically, the nafkamina would be the Shalah. The Shalah says that even though the Mishnah says that sometime pas, you don't make a bracha, it's really the pas is there for nothing. It's like an edible spoon. It's I want to eat the mashkas, I'm dipping it in, or I just want to, it's not, my mouth is on fire. He says, but you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it because who knows really, you don't know if you really, maybe really deep down you want a piece of pas. You shouldn't do it. That's the Mishnah, you shouldn't do it. I would say that he holds like Tosfos. If you hold like Rashi and you're eating the fruits of Genoisa right now, which I don't know if we know today what the fruits are Genoisa. I don't know if right now in Eretz Yisrael are producing the fruits that are so to that level. They're very good. They're very good. But every time I go to the Rambam's kever, I think about this Gemara. I kid you not. I like because you stand there and you see like there's almost like the Kinneret under you, and then there's this kever of the Shalah, and then they have what they think is the kever of Yochanan, of Amir, of Asi. And I'm visualizing the shlok. This is Rabban and Rasi are walking around. They lost the hair. Yeah, that's a Tveria. Tveria is right over the Kinneret. And Rabban and Rasi lost their hair. And Ababo, the things are flying off his face. And the shlokish is running around mamish crazy. And it's Lebedik. But they're all buried right there. They're all buried. Gemara says that they lived there. But Arizal was Megala the Kforim that are in the north of Eretz Yisrael. They're buried right there. It's unbelievable.
So much fruit.
That they ate so much of those fruit that they became a sugar. So now, all the fruits there, or I don't know, or maybe specific. We don't know. But according to Rashi, the shalom wouldn't be. But because the Shechnorach doesn't bring Rashi, Shechnorach brings really Taisus. So therefore, the shalom says that true. There is the idea of this choo-choo train that for whatever reason the bread is insignificant to him, and therefore you make a bracha on something else, and you make a bracha in the past. But the shalom says better not to rely on it because you never know. You never know. There is two unbelievable verter that I found. One from Ur Sameach and one from Rav Frumerman. Rav Frumer. Let me first tell you the words in the Ur Sameach. The Ur Sameach says on this parsha that he says that there are opinions that hold that the bracha from fruits of Eretz Yisrael, by the way, the 7 fruits of the Eretz Yisrael, 5 fruits, 5 grains, 5 fruits. So he says that's why it says there are opinions that hold that not only benching is their Raisa, but there are opinions that are showing that hold Me'en Gimel is also their Raisa. It's funny that a pasuk would tell you a din derabanan. Usually the Torah only tells you a din deraisa, not a din derabanan. So he said, "Oh, this is a raya like the opinions that hold that also fruits. The shiva minin is a chay, and that's why we say moedim anachnalach. And me'en gimel is me'en their main bracha. That's why it say me'moedim amavorchen alay. I think that's what the is al-michin. That's me'en gimel, and that's a short version of all. It's called me'en gimel. It's a short version of all the 3 brachas, and in those brachas there's noidelacha. That's why it say moedin amavarchen alay. I think that's what he means. But there's another moedidik word from Eretz Atzvi. I knew there's a word, but I didn't know said it. So, but the Eibush to help today, you can go on this little thing with this little box. You have to have patience. You have to have patience. You find everything. Yeah, everything. You have to have patience. You find it. So there was a Moeredikir, the last Rosh Hashiva Chachmei Lublin was he was killed al Kiddush Hashem Rahman al by the Nazis. He was there is a beautiful talk from Rav Hirschprung about his Rebbe. He talks about the first Siyam Hashas. He describes how the Meir Shapiro came down, Big Shabbos, and then he describes the second Siyam Hashas. The Nazis were already conquering Europe. And he describes his uncle had just built the 5th floor of the Yeshiva Chachma Lublin, and that coincided. 30,000 people were there. 30,000 people at the second Siyam Hashas, which is mamish as the Second World War already broke out. Tafresh Tzadik Ches. It was 39. So this is in Poland, in Lublin. And he says, even though the war already broke out, 30,000 even showed up. Rabbi Shapiro was already nifted. And the Siyam Hashas was mainly done by his successor, which is the Reb Aryeh Leib Frumer. Reb Aryeh Leib Frumer was he was a very good friend, a very good friend of the Imre Emes of Gud. And once, a few years ago, he gave us a shir. The Emes asked him a question with Minchen, the Shtiblach after this man. Anyway, if you remember that shir, this is the same Eretz Atzvi. He was a Gaon Otzum, he was a Rebbe of Rav Hirschprung, of other Gaonim. He was and he was in Israel, and he went back because he was at Rosh Hashiva, and he was killed. So but he had his whole family. Everyone was never killed. He had one nephew that lived in Haifa, and he said, "Oh, my uncle was in my house. He came like Boemet to Miron, and he had a lot of kisvei yad from his uncle. So he published 2 Sfarim, Eretz Tzvi, Shas Tshuvas, Chelik Aleph, Chelik Beis. So he has here interesting tshuva about brachas, and at the end, in brackets, he writes like this, unbelievable thing. He says, I was in Miron in the place of the Rabbi, and the thought came into my mind. Unbelievable thought. Rav Frumer. But 5 years before, he went to Israel. He came back. So he was in Miron, Lag Ba'omer, and a thought came into his mouth. Unbelievable chap. He says, the pasuk says, Naftola ayola shlucha, and the Targum says, Teheya avoda peided, yimoidim avarchin alayim. He says, I don't understand. How did the Torah tell you din derabbanan? Besides, he says, what's the union of making a bracha and peidas? And everything. And besides, he says, bracha rishoina. Bracha rishoina is derabbanan. He says, oh, I'll tell you the pshat. He says, you know, the din is yochid v'rabim alocha kerabim. However, b'asari derab, you do like rab, doesn't matter yochid v'rabim. Who is buried in the land of Naphtali? Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. He's He's the Morad Asr in the land of Naphtali. He's the Morad Asr in the land of Naphtali. Shimon Bar Yochai. The Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar says that every bracha Rishoina is the Iraisa. So that's what the Pasuk said, that Yaakov said in the Vua, that really we paskin against Shimon Bar Yochai. He's a Yochid. We paskin like the Rabbana, and that bracha Rishoina is really the Rabbana. But in the land of Naphtali, so the fruits, even the bracha Rishoina we make is a deraisa, because he's the Morad Asr in the land of Naphtali. But it's a chap. It's a chap. Okay, but for Drush, I think it's good. According to the Zohar. So that's why the Torah could tell you. Otherwise, it's strange. The Torah is telling you, you should. The pasuk it says it talks about the land of Naphtali. No. It's in the brachas, the last portion. It's in Vayechi. It says Naphtali ayola shnucha noisin imrei shefer. So the Targum says that the fruits are going to be so unbelievable fruits. Alive. So what do you mean? The simple pshat is that people are going to say, "Wow, it's delicious fruit," but it sounds like they can make brachas on it. So you could say big deal. Yaakov said in the Vua that the Rabbanan are going to make a takona to make whatever. That was his chap. That was his chap.
That was his house, which is their own. Most of this place is
Yeah. So just to read this, what the Rambam says, that Dvash v'lishchol of Tachas L'shoina, that learning Nigla he says is called meat and bread. Learning Pnimius HaTorah is called milk and honey. He says that the person must learn also Nigla the Torah first to settle the stomach. That's what the Rambam writes in the fourth Perek in Yisod HaTorah, to settle the stomach. And then you can eat the sweet stuff. You can't just eat just the sweet stuff. You'll go crazy if you eat just the sweet stuff. But the Chachomim and the Golil in the land of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, they used to. What's the fruits? The Bach says, why do we eat the fruits of Eretz Yisrael? Because the fruits of Eretz Yisrael gives us Yireh Shamayim. That's what the Gemara says. Moshe Rabbeinu needs to go to Eretz Yisrael. He needs to eat the fruits. So he says, the Bach says, Moshe Rabbeinu, because for him it says the Yireh Shamayim was a small thing for him, so he didn't need the fruits of Eretz Yisrael. But me and you need to eat the fruits of Eretz Yisrael, because when we eat the fruits of Eretz Yisrael, it increases our Yireh Shamayim. That's what the Bach says. So the Chachamim and the Golem, they ate those. They saw in the Gashmis the sweetness of those fruits. They helped them understand Pnimius HaTorah. They ate so much that first of all, the flies, which is the Indian of Hitush, which is Sitra Acher, Klippa, couldn't even get close to them. And anything which is it went out of them. And Ad Kedei Kach Shlochich went crazy. He learned so much Pnimius HaTorah, it gave him a sugar, but he didn't stop. It sounds like he did it all the time because it was really delicious. So he did it again and again. So they took him home, they tied him up, his wife took care of him, but he did it again and again because it could be Begashmis he ate, but Beruchnis, it helped him. Yeah, right. He ate plenty of meat and bread, but proportionately he ate, and that's the pshat, that sometimes in Eretz Kinneret, they learned so much Pnimius HaTorah that the sweetness that were going out of their mind. So then they needed to chap a Gemara. I learned a shtickle nigla also, a Gemara Rashi Tosfos, to a little bit calm down, because they were already going in older. They were already between Atzilus and Bria. They were between Kesed and Zoh, so they would quickly have to chap, like the story with the Alter Rebbe and the Malach, that they were being misboinen, and all of a sudden he realized that the Malach, his neshama, is going to, because of kalois and nefesh, of the sweetness. So he chapped the bagel, and he took the butter, and he washed, and he started to eat the bagel and the butter. So his friends, what's going on over here? Say, I woke you up from your dvekas. Your sweetness was so much that Achman al-Tzlan, your neshama was going to go and expire. So yesh loimer, that's why, based on what we're saying, that's why we have bagels here Sunday morning.
How many of
based on that, it was five in the Galileo.
Right.
And so the Kabbalah המשך or Yachai, why is
It's-
the box
Where people feel the hisalus.
yeah.
We have two kohenim here. Sure, we should have a kohen, yeah. Should have a very sweet week. Avishona Toivum Sukkah. It doesn't matter, but it's recorded, right? Good. So, good. So,